and gentlemen, welcome to another Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters Luncheon. Here's your president, Chuck Street.
All right, Fred, this is the moment we've been waiting for. So if you'll step up to the podium. Wanted to present you with this. The Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters honors Fred Willard with the Art Gilmore Career Achievement Award for many distinguished years in radio and television on this day, June 19th, 2015. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is...
Fred, I'll move it
yeah.
Fred, I have something to say.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm really quite thrilled at this. I told Chuck, I said, I don't know, I should go first. I'm going to have to follow Jim McGeorge and Peter Marshall. I'm not going to be that funny. And he said, well, no. He said, believe me, people aren't expecting you to be that funny, Fred. I said, well, how much time? I mean, do I have to just, he says, I said, how much time do I have to do? He said, about 45 minutes. And I thought, oh my God, I hung up the phone. I said, well, how many? And I got here today, I said, how much time? He says, 4 to 5 minutes. I said, oh, okay. So Steve, you see what you can do on one piece of paper. My theme here for these couple of minutes is how much has changed, and it's wonderful that I'm being honored by the Pioneer Broadcasting, because as a little boy, I first got my interest in show business, listening to the radio, as a lot of us did, Jack Benny, Fred Allen, Truth or Consequences. The $64 question. My wife says she never heard of $64. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and they had the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions this year, finally in Cleveland, as it should be, because that's where rock and roll really started. In Cleveland, they would break all the new records. Ellen Freed, I would listen as a kid, and I heard this interesting woman singing this song with an interesting voice. When your sweetheart sends a letter of goodbye. I said, what an interesting voice. I realized it was Johnny Ray. And at that time, and we heard Frankie Lane's songs, and that led into rock and roll. So I was watching the Hall of Fame inductions, and I said, the hall that they're in seems familiar. I'm sure I was there. Well, I don't know how many of you saw the show. It started with Joan Jett. I thought she was wonderful. I wasn't quite sure who she is. I knew a lot of her songs, but behind her were large pictures of her giving us all the finger. And I thought, well, this is a famous woman. She's being inducted. I was a little hurt. What have I done? I'm just sitting here. Then they brought on Miley Cyrus, who I enjoy, but Miley Cyrus seemed to be a bit angry. And she ended the thing by saying, if people don't like what we're doing, you can go yourself. Now I was really upset. I'm sitting in the chair having a ginger ale, trying to enjoy myself. Then Bill Withers was wonderful, and the Five Royales. Who here does remember the Five Royales? Ling Ting Tong, and dedicated to the one I love. And then the wonderful Paul McCartney introduced Ringo Starr, and I was waiting to hear about great stories. Ringo had a 5-minute bit about farts in cars. And suddenly I recognized the hall. It was the public auditorium. And to show you how times have changed, when I was a little boy, I sold the Cleveland Plain Dealer. And at the end of the year, they took all the delivery boys down there to the public auditorium. And you'll never guess who the star of the show was. Lawrence Welk. And I was thrilled. It was Lawrence Welk. I didn't know. I knew who Lawrence Welk. And also Ed Wynn, the perfect fool. And I was fascinated. I got his jokes, but I was more interested in what he was doing. The perfect fool. And Lawrence Welk of course, and in later years became kind of a joke. Oh, Lawrence Welk with the bubble machine and all. But I really saw a little documentary that he was in, and I said, damn, he was good. He was he was wonderful. It's like Liberace. They made a lot of jokes about Liberace, but he was soothing. He was wonderful to watch. And I remember I was always interested. My parents took me to the Playhouse in Cleveland, which is quite a famous place, and I saw a show, You Can't Take It With You. And I realized that I wasn't so much enjoying the show like the rest of the audience, but I wanted to be in the show. How did this actor do that? Where were they coming from? Where were they dressed? And I didn't at the time realize that's when I wanted to be a performer. But when I was about to turn 18, I couldn't wait to go to the Roxy Theater on East 9th Street. Not so much to see the girls, because if you ever saw some of those girls, you could understand why I wasn't that enthused. It was the sketches. These guys with the baggy pants would come out, they had rouge on his cheeks, and, well, here I am on Euclid Avenue in Cleveland, waiting to see my dear friend. And I just loved it. I loved the comedy, the old jokes. Your order in the court. I'll have a ham and cheese. And I thought, oh, wait. And the courtroom scene where the photographer came down in front of the girl on the witness stand. Allow me to focus the witness. And I said, oh, could you do that? I listened to Jack Benny and his feud with Fred Allen. Do they really not like each other? Charlie McCarthy, probably the worst ventriloquist that ever lived, but the funniest ventriloquist. I mean, Charlie McCarthy was a gem. And Phil Harris, I loved his brashness. That influenced me a lot. And I saw it years later when I saw Robert Preston do The Music Man. I love that. Hey, Jackson. But movies have changed. I was very scared. The early movies, Frankenstein and Dracula. The first movie I begged my folks to take me to was Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. And they said, oh, no, we won't. For a week, I begged them, and they finally took me to see it, dropped me off, picked me up at the end of the movie. I still remember that. And then how movies changed when Psycho came out. And you never saw Janet Leigh killed in the shower. Wait a minute. Martin Balsam, the other star, coming up the stairs, and he was murdered, dead. What, is the movie end? Is it over? And then Tony Perkins' mother, he kept her in the attic. It's something a lot of people never thought of, and it probably influenced a lot of people. Some of you may be here tonight. I don't have to miss Mom. I can keep her in the attic. My wife says, you're not going to keep me in a plastic thing in the living room. I said, that's a good idea. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, these two young couples, and the one girl, Leatherface, grabs one young girl. I said, ooh, what's going to happen? He impaled on a hook. I've never seen this before. Comedians, as a kid, comedy has changed so much. Henny Youngman with his jokes about, I have mixed emotions. Mixed emotions is watching your mother-in-law drive your new Cadillac over a hill. I had a great day yesterday. I drove my mother-in-law to the airport. Then came Lenny Bruce. My mother-in-law ruined our wedding. My wife walked in and caught me in bed with her. I didn't know you could do this. And routines about Hitler and the Pope. And now we have Dave Attell, Amy Schumer, saying things that we wouldn't have said in junior high school. We would have been expelled. But they're funny, and it shows that things change and things expand. They're going to change this restaurant here. I hate to see anything change. But I was always interested in comedy. The English comedy, I remember, I think it was The Goonies or something, one of those. And they're investigating a crime scene. And the assistant had a magnifying glass. He said, look, sir, an impression of a foot. And his boss says, I don't have time for your stupid impressions. And Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, I think that influenced me the most. When I was a kid and I would see Bob Hope suddenly turn to the audience and do an aside to us sitting in the audience. Again, I said, I didn't know you could do this. And now we fast forward to, I just went and saw Andreas, is that it, with the fault? Where they watched Los Angeles and San Francisco completely destroyed. And you know it's not happening, but you enjoy it, and that's how far it's all come. So I think it was ironic and wonderful and thrilling that I would be honored by the Pacific radio broadcasters, because that's all where it started from. And I can't thank the people on the dais enough to be here. Peter Marshall, I saw him years ago in Skyscraper on Broadway, never dreaming that one day I would consider him a friend. I was on Hollywood Squares. That's the real Hollywood Squares when Peter was the host. And we go to Las Vegas to do the show, and they put us up in the high rollers suite. And one week we went, and they didn't give us the suites because the high rollers were there. And what a difference between the high rollers suite and the regular suite. And during one of the break, Peter says, all right, everyone can go back to the room. And Paul Lynde says, I can't wait to get back to my room. But Peter, I only knew Peter professionally. And I was invited to see him do The Music Man in Long Beach. And I said, this is my favorite play, The Music Man, Robert Preston. That's how old I am. I saw Robert Preston do it. And I said, what do I say if I don't like it? But I went, and he killed. He was wonderful. Thank you for a wonderful performance of my favorite play, Peter. And more important than all that, Peter's son was a Major League Baseball player. So I'm in awe of Peter. I've never met his son, but I'm in awe of Peter. Thank you so much for being here for the Magic Castle. I've spent wonderful times there. You are a wonderful comedian. Thank you for the Willard. Yes, you should. And I never thought when I first went to the Magic Castle that I would be Milt Larson, who I would consider one of my friends. I'm not sure, maybe I'm being too forward to say he's one of my friends, but he welcomes us there. I'm thrilled to have him in my life. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. I'm so thankful for you all coming. I'm thankful so much. I'm so thankful. When Chuck called and asked me to do this, my first thought was, oh no. And then my wife said it'll be great, and she was right, as usual. This is wonderful. Thanks for this. Thanks for coming. Thanks for keeping on the memories of show business.
Thanks for joining us. You know, I can already feel the excitement building for our next Hollywood Media Professional Celebrity Showcase.